right now. Here we go. Looking good. Aww.
And it didn't bounce back on us. Look at that.
Awesome. Oh, it's taken us a year, a little bit long, more than a year. Not bad. Not bad.
Pretty darn good.
We're getting there.
Pretty darn good.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our Sunday night offering of Astronomy Outreach, the Sunday Night Astronomy Show. First of all, I'd like to welcome back our regular co-host, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada member, Mr. Paul Owen from the dark skies in Hampton, New Brunswick. Hey, Paul.
Hello. Hello.
And Royal Astronomical Society of Canada member, Mr. Mike Powell from the PFO Observatory here in St. John.
That's private.
Yeah, I'm down.
He's over that way. Awesome. Okay.
And Chris Kerwin.
From Astronomy by the Bay. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that way.
Whatever. All right, on tonight's program, we're going to talk a bit more about telescopes tonight, in particular when not to touch your telescope or clean your telescope, clean your optics especially. Getting crisp views in your eyepiece doesn't necessarily mean that all the light path needs to be squeaky clean. Tonight, Paul's going to demonstrate how bad things can be before you need to worry about cleaning. Also on tonight's program, we're going to take a look at another interesting current space mission and our new Where Are They Now segment of the show. This one is currently the longest active mission in history, in NASA's history. Of course, I'm referring to the Voyager spacecrafts, and since there is so much material to cover for almost 45 years worth of exploration, this presentation is actually going to take probably 3 weeks to cover. Then also, Mike will be returning with a binocular target of the week. Right, Mike?
Yep.
Sure. And Paul's going to come back with another interesting Rosanna's Fun Facts episode tonight for us. And we'll have a look at all your wonderful photo submissions too. Got quite a few of those to share with you. So another very busy program on the way. So sit back and enjoy, folks. And remember, this is a family-friendly live broadcast. So if you have any questions about the night sky, we're happy to try to answer them here for you. Whether we're typing them out, the answers, or whether we're able to speak out the answers. Either way. So let's get started, I guess, then with another look at our newest segment, Where Are They Now? And I'll present my screen. And let's go with this one. I'm going to say good evening to everybody in Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to go from slideshow from the beginning. Probably a good spot to start. That should be our first slide up. Where are they now? Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about the Voyager missions. Let me get the Voyager spacecrafts, which of course have been out there for, well, they launched in 1977, so we're looking at almost 45 years now that we're still talking to these amazing spacecraft. And I'm going to get the gentleman who runs the show, Ed Stone, to do a little bit of talking about it. You're also going to see Andurian on here, who was Carl Sagan's wife. So she's going to talk a little bit as well. So it's just a short little video.
We knew we were on a journey of discovery when we launched the Voyager spacecraft, but we had no idea how much there was to discover.
We had a sense that we knew what it felt like to be Magellan or Columbus.
Time after
Oops. Pardon me. You still there?
I am.
Okay. Let's try this again. I hit the audio mixer button.
time we're surprised by seeing things that we had not expected or even imagined. Volcanoes erupting from a moon Io. The possibility of a liquid water ocean under the icy crust of Europa. Titan, where we found an atmosphere Uranus, small moon Miranda, which had one of the most complex geologic surfaces we've seen. Even at Neptune, Triton, 40 degrees above absolute zero, even there were geysers erupting.
It's the only spacecraft that's gone by Uranus. It's the only spacecraft that's gone by Neptune. Everything we know about those planets, we know from Voyager.
To see those first pictures coming in from the outer solar system, for the first time, what had been a point of light in the sky was a place.
I really credit the people that designed the mission, both the engineers and the mission planners and scientists, because not only did they build an extremely robust, durable spacecraft, but they had the vision to send it on a path such that it could get out into interstellar space and carry a gold record.
And here was this Noah's Ark of human culture that was being sent to the outer planets and then beyond to wander in the interstellar darkness for 1 billion years.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
On Valentine's Day, 1990, Voyager 1 looked homeward, and what did it find? Not the frame-filling Apollo Earth, but instead that 1 pixel Earth. That's here. That's home.
The Voyager spacecraft are in the outer layer of the heliosphere, the giant bubble the sun creates around itself with its supersonic wind. Voyager today is headed for the edge of interstellar space. That's the space between stars, and it's filled with material that has been injected by the explosion of stars, matter which came from a particular direction, creating a wind which has shaped the bubble in which the solar system is surrounded. Voyager really has changed our view of the solar system. This will be a milestone in space exploration, leaving the solar system, leaving the bubble, and entering interstellar space for the first time.
Now, unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of videos out there that are more recent than those. That was in 2011. Of course, Voyager's traveling a whole lot farther now. It travels about 1 billion kilometers every 3 years. So the twin Voyagers 1 and 2 spacecraft are exploring where nothing from Earth has ever flown before. Continuing on their more than 40-year journey since their 1977 launches, they are each much farther away from Earth than the Sun and Pluto, of course. In August of 2012, Voyager made the historic entry to interstellar space. So they were talking about interstellar space there, but Voyager has passed interstellar space. Voyager number 1, the region between the stars that's filled with material ejected by the death of nearby stars millions of years ago. Voyager 2 as well entered interstellar space on November the 5th of 2018, and scientists hope to learn more about this region. Both spacecraft are still sending back scientific information about their surroundings through the Deep Space Network, or the DSN. Now, the primary mission was the exploration of Jupiter and Saturn. After making a string of discoveries there, such as active volcanoes on Jupiter's moon, Io, and intricacies of Saturn's rings, the mission was extended. Voyager 2 went on to explore Uranus and Neptune, and still is the only spacecraft to have ever visited those outer planets. Now, the Adventurer's current mission, the Voyager Interstellar mission, will explore the outermost edges of the Sun's domain and beyond. Now, twin spacecraft Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were launched by NASA back in separate months in the summer of 1977 from Cape Canaveral in Florida. As originally designed, the Voyagers were to conduct close-up studies of Jupiter and Saturn, Saturn's rings, and the larger moons of the 2 planets. Now, the Voyager 1 mission was designed to take advantage of a rare geometric arrangement of the outer planets in the late 1970s and 80s, which allowed for a 4-planet tour for a minimum of propellant and trip time. Now, this layout of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune only occurs every 175 years, which allows a spacecraft on a particular flight path to swing from one planet to the next without the need for large onboard propulsion systems. Now, the flyby of each planet bends the spacecraft's flight path and increases its velocity enough to deliver it to the next destination. Using this gravity assist technique, first demonstrated with NASA's Mariner 10 mission in 1973, the flight time to Neptune was cut down from 30 years to 12 years. Now, to accomplish their 2-planet mission, the spacecraft were built to last only 5 years. But as the mission went on, and with the successful achievement of all of its objectives, the additional flybys of the 2 uttermost giant planets, Uranus and Neptune, proved possible and irresistible to mission scientists and engineers at the Voyager's home at the JPL laboratory in Pasadena. As the spacecraft flew across the solar system, remote control reprogramming was used to endow the Voyagers with greater capabilities than they possessed when they left Earth. Their 2-planet mission became 4, their 5-year lifetimes stretched to 12, and is now almost 45 years. Eventually, between them, Voyager 1 and 2 would explore all of the giant outer planets of our solar system, 48 of their moons, and a unique system of rings and magnetic fields those planets possess. Had the Voyager's mission ended after the Jupiter and Saturn flybys alone, it still would have had enough material to rewrite astronomy books. But having doubled their already ambitious itineraries, the Voyagers returned to Earth information over the years that has revolutionized the science of planetary astronomy, helping to resolve key questions while raising intriguing new ones about the origin and evolution of the planets in our solar system. Now, Voyager 1's trajectory, designed to send the spacecraft closely past the large moon Titan and behind Saturn's rings, bent the spacecraft's path inexorably northward out of the ecliptic plane, the plane in which most of the planets orbit the Sun. Voyager 2 was aimed to fly by Saturn at a point that would automatically send the spacecraft in the direction of Uranus. Now, after Voyager 2's successful Saturn encounter, it was shown that Voyager 2 would likely be able to fly onto Uranus with all of the instruments operating. NASA provided additional funding to continue operating the 2 spacecraft and authorized JPL to continue our Uranus flyby. Subsequently, NASA also authorized the Neptune leg of the mission, which was renamed the Voyager Neptune Interstellar mission. Following Voyager 2's close approach to Neptune on August 25, 1989, the spacecraft flew southward below the ecliptic plane and onto a course that it took into interstellar space. The spacecraft were built using early 1970s technology, but have far surpassed their original lifespan of only 5 years. Now, the cameras have long been turned off on both spacecraft to help preserve power, but many of the spacecraft systems are still functioning today. Now, instead of getting into too deep of all the instruments on the spacecraft, I just chose a few to take a look at. The spacecraft's power comes from 3 radioisotope thermoelectric generators, which rely on the decay of a form of plutonium-238 to produce power. Now, the current power levels are at about 249 watts for each spacecraft. As the power level decreases, certain loads have to be turned off. Now, one of the other key components, of course, is the high-gain antenna, which communicates messages back to Earth. The high-gain antenna transmits data to Earth on 2 frequencies channels, the downlink. One is at about 8.4 gigahertz, and the rates are about as high as 7.2 kilobytes per second, or kilobits per second. The other channel, around 2.3 gigahertz, is in the S-band, and it contains only engineering data on the health and state of the spacecraft, and it transmits at the low rate of 40 bits per second. Now, the signal leaving Voyager is only 20 watts, about the same as a refrigerator light bulb, which means that NASA requires a collection of big radio antennas to capture the weak signal. That network is known as the Deep Space Network. Now, the DSN locations near Canberra, Australia, Madrid, Spain, and Goldstone, California, those sites are almost evenly spaced around the planet. That means as the Earth turns, we never lose sight of a spacecraft. Now, the most distant objects that the DSN communicates with are NASA's 2 Voyager spacecraft. And because the Voyagers are so far away, their signals to the antenna are very weak. In fact, the power that the DSN antennas receive from the Voyager signals is 20 billion times weaker than what is needed to run a digital watch. Now, here's a few remarkable facts associated with the various aspects of the Voyager mission. Now, the total cost of the Voyager mission from May 1972 through the Neptune encounter, including the launch vehicles, radioactive power source, and the DSN tracking support, is $865 million. You can add another $30 million to that for the Voyager Interstellar mission. At first, this may sound very expensive, but the fantastic returns are a bargain when we place the costs in the proper perspective. It is important to realize that on a per capita basis, this is only 8 cents per person in the US per year. That's a total of 11,000 work years were devoted to the Voyager project through the Neptune encounter. This is equivalent to 1/3 of the amount of effort estimated to complete the Great Pyramid at Giza. Now, the Voyager spacecraft were able to point its scientific instruments on the scan platform to an accuracy of better than 1/10 of a degree. What is that? Well, that is comparable to bowling strike after strike for infinity, assuming that you must hit within 1 inch of the strike pocket every single time. Such precision is necessary to properly center the narrow angle pitcher, whose square field of view would be equivalent to the width of a bowling pin. Now, to avoid smearing in Voyager's television pictures, spacecraft angular rates must be extremely small to hold the cameras as steady as possible during the exposure time. So each spacecraft is so steady that the angular rates are typically 15 times slower than the motion of a clock's hour hand. But even that wasn't steady enough at Neptune, where light levels are 900 times fainter than those on Earth. So spacecraft engineers devised ways to make Voyager 30 times steadier than the hour hand on a clock. And finally, a small set of thrusters provide Voyager with the capability for attitude control and trajectory correction, of course keeping the high gain antenna pointed back at Earth as well. Now, each of these tiny little assemblies, which are sitting right here, has a thrust of only a few ounces. In the absence of friction on a level road, it would take nearly 6 hours to accelerate a large car up to a speed of 30 miles per hour using just one of these thrusters. So very little force. And of course the golden record, which we'll talk about on the last week of this presentation. There's a lot to be said about this particular record and what it means and what it symbolizes. So stay tuned for next week when we'll talk about the planetary voyage of these two amazing spacecraft, part 2. And that's my talk.
I have to be home by 8:30. Oh, well, that is so cool.
Yeah.
That I've been following that spacecraft's mission since it launched. And every 6 months or so, I'll go back in and take a look and see what's new. And there really isn't a whole lot new because they're out in the interstellar space now, so they're not. I mean, the cameras are long turned off. There you go.
It's right here. Not in interstellar space.
The cameras have long been turned off. There is one other thing I did want to present. 1 second. Just a quick shot of where they are right now. Where are they now?
Where are they, Chris?
It's right on my shelf.
They are right here. So this is the NASA website, NASA Voyager Spacecraft website. Take a look at the numbers down here at the bottom. So Voyager 1 on the first line there on the far left says distance from Earth is 22,741,201,146 kilometers. But really what I wanted to do is to watch the second number here. This is the distance from the Sun. Watch how quickly that number changes in kilometers.
Oh, yeah.
So it's unbelievable that it's actually 15 or 16 kilometers per second. And that'll go on for infinity. That'll never change. Now,
So why the difference in time?
What's that? Okay, so
Why
so they are different. You can see that the one that's the distance from the Sun is moving very quickly, and the one on the other side, the distance from Earth, is not. And the reason why is because as we rotate around the Sun, we're actually closer to Voyager spacecraft at certain times. So the distance between us and the spacecraft isn't as large. We rotate around the Sun faster than Voyager is moving away from us.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there are times when we go around the Sun, we orbit the Sun, and we'll be closer to Voyager, and the distance will be cut right back. Actually, I've seen it go backwards sometimes.
I was just going to ask you, yeah, it must fluctuate.
It does, yeah. So right now we're almost in line with it, so that's why the distance isn't changing very much. We're actually approaching it, but.
So the distance from Earth stays static because it's always measuring that distance, but because we're rotating around the sun, and we're rotating at 27,000 kilometers an hour, whatever the case, there's that movement to consider. So there are two different points of trajectory, I guess. Is it?
Yeah. Well, it's rising up out of the plane of the planets, so it's heading up about, I think it was 37 degrees above the plane of the planets.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as we go around the sun, we're approaching it faster than it is moving away from us, if that makes sense. So the
Yes,
distance,
it does. Yeah,
so,
it
so
does.
the distance
Yeah.
between us and that, so you can see it changing there, but it's changing very slowly right now. But you'll come back in a couple of weeks' time, you'll see that number moving quicker.
Yeah.
There too is Voyager 1 light time. Actually, it explains it right here too. So here, I click on that. Voyager 1 distance from Earth. It's a real-time indicator of Voyager 1's distance from Earth in astronomical units, in either miles or kilometers. Note, because Earth moves around the sun faster than Voyager 1 is speeding away from the inner solar system, the distance between Earth and the spacecraft actually decreases at certain times of the year.
Okay, so it does go backwards.
Yep. And there's the one-way light time. So to send the message at the speed of light, which is 186,000 kilometers per second, or 300,000 kilometers per second, it takes 21 hours, 4 minutes, and 16 seconds for the message to get there at the speed of light.
Wow.
Crazy. Almost a full day. So it's 21 light hours away. And that's been traveling for 45 years now, or a little bit, not quite 45 years, because it did orbit the other planets as well, but we'll say 43 years at that speed. Here's the cosmic ray data Mike was talking about earlier there, Mike. So this is the one that is the solar wind that's pushing out, and this is the one from the universe pushing back. There was a point when this top one was very large and the yellow one was not even existent. So that was the solar wind pushing out on our boundary, and this is done by the plasma wave subsystem or cosmic ray data. That's what it's measuring, cosmic rays. Cosmic rays that are entering our solar system, our sun's bubbles, the influence of the sun from outside the universe or outside our solar system. So the number is a lot larger here in the bottom. So that's why we know that we are actually in the space between the stars by those numbers. That's just Voyager 1, and there's Voyager 2, at a distance of 18.9 billion kilometers away. You can see that number changing. Look at that number, just going backwards.
Yeah. So we must be approaching it now instead of going away from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's the other one from the sun. So this is from the sun is the sun is we're saying that the sun isn't moving, basically, right? We're rotating around the sun. The sun is staying stationary. So, but of course, it's moving around the galaxy. And same thing here. Here's our number for cosmic ray data. Much larger, pushing back in than it is pushing out. So we know that we're in the space between the stars with Voyager 2 as well. Next week, it'll be talk about the planetary voyage itself, what they did discover on their trip through the solar system. And then finally on the Interstellar mission, we'll talk about what's happening with them now that they're that far away and outside the sun's influence. And are they really outside the sun's influence? We talked about that a little bit earlier. And where they're going to end up in the next a few billion years from now. So really, when we're I'm going to close this window. After our sun has gone to a red giant and has swallowed Mercury, Venus, and probably Earth as well, these little spacecraft will be out there still roaming around the galaxy. And they'll carry a message with that golden record of a civilization that once existed here on Earth.
Do you think someone will find it and say and brush away some dirt and it's going to say Voyager?
Well, yeah. What was the Star? Was it Star Trek? Was it Star Trek 3 or 4 that they shot at? They shot at it.
The Klingons used it for target practice.
Yeah. I know. Yeah,
they never sent the instructions on how to use the record.
That was it. Anyway, really interesting topic. There's so much, but I still enjoy going back and just seeing where it is today, that kind of thing. But very interesting, very nostalgic, right? Think about the guys. So there's another nice talk coming up next week when I talk about what they had to do with the Voyager spacecraft to get to, because it was starting to drift away. Its high gain antenna, they were starting to lose position of it. So they fired these little thrusters on board, and they hadn't been energized for over 40 years. And they sent a message to it, fire thrusters, and it came back and said, I did it, okay. And it,
Yeah.
like,
It's amazing how a lot of the things that they send out into space, that they have certain years of missions, and almost all of them last way longer.
oh yeah, yeah.
So there's obviously something going on out there that's not going on Earth, that doesn't degrade them while they're in space, right?
And they spend so much time on redundant systems and stuff too. Like the Voyager had a number of redundant systems on, so if one failed, they would have another backup. They do a lot of prep work, ahead of time, saying, okay, what if this happens? That's a few $billion spacecraft. We could really be at risk, right? But the other thing that's really interesting with the Voyager one is that it's been going on so long now that the code that they use to write for programming for the spacecraft to send it messages, there are only a few people that actually know what Voyager is saying when it sends a message back, because it's sending it in a different language, different computer language. So they had to bring guys that had worked on the mission originally, that wrote the programming code. They had to bring them back out of retirement, and they're all in their 90s.
Well, it's antiquated, right?
Yeah, they're all in their 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and they brought them back to teach the young guys how to write code so they could talk to the Voyager. Really amazing. Like that tells you that there's a long time expected out of these missions, like the longevity.
Well, those two spacecraft are going to last longer than anything else because they're built like a '57 Chevy.
Yeah.
Right? They're not built light and like the stuff that they would build today.
Yeah.
They're definitely a different quality from then till now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, really fascinating to learn about it, and to learn how smart these people are. The engineers are just incredible.
Oh.
They had the second flight of Ingenuity, I guess, today too, didn't they? Was it today or yesterday that they actually took it up and they flew it sideways? The helicopter.
Another 10-second flight?
Yeah. Well, I think it was, yeah. Oh well, they're getting braver with it anyway. So okay, let's go on, Paul, with your talk on when not to touch your telescope.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is kind of an interesting topic because we chose it because we thought about all the people that are just going out and buying telescopes, new for the first time, or even those who have had them and are wondering, gee, should I clean my optics? Do they really need to be cleaned? And of course, the people who are new, the first thing they do, and we've all done it, hey guys, you get the flashlight out.
Oh yeah.
And you take the flashlight and you aim it at the lens, or you aim it down the Dobsonian tube, down to the mirror. And what do you see?
Dirt.
You have a heart attack.
You see what your wife complains about all the time. The dust in this place, I can't keep up with it. So, so you're seeing stuff that is kind of scary, especially. And I remember my very first time I bought a decent little refractor telescope, and there was a little bit of dirt on it. And I said, man, I got to clean that. That's got to come off. It drove you crazy because there's dirt on it, right? Anyway, what you're going to see tonight is going to dispel all that new desire to clean everything you see. So I'm doing a little talk on when not to clean your optics, and there's going to be a little section on when to clean it as well. But let's get started with it, and let me just see if I can bring this up. And I'll put it over here, and I'll see if I can get my first slide up and ready. Okay. And I'll just start off with something a little chuckly, I guess. Let's present now. Okay. So, this guy, low man on the totem pole at the observatory. Now look what he's doing. He's up there on his hands and knees, and he's cleaning that scope like it owes him money. I just hope that they don't look for something low on the horizon while he's doing that.
Oops.
Look at the sun.
Oh my God. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show just a few photographs of some things. And I just want to make sure I got my pictures in the right order here. There we go.
Let me know if you want me to pin that, Paul. Do you want me to pin that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Okay, I want to show you, first of all, this photograph. It may or may not come up. There it is. And so what do we see? Well, we see, a waste management photograph. Please keep lids closed. This obviously it's not in real great focus or anything, but it was just a photograph that typically someone would take. They're walking down the street. Oh, isn't that cool? And they take a picture. Well, what's interesting about this is you would say, well, geez, that guy's lens must be, pretty clean. It looks nice. It's a nice photograph of that. Let's not pick on the quality of the image, but it's just an image that you would see a normal average image, right? Well, here's the cool thing. Here's what it was taken with. Now, you tell me that when you have a lens on your camera and you have something that looks like that, you think, okay, you know what? It is toast. It's got to go. It's fit for the pit. Get rid of the darn thing, right? Well, the interesting thing about it is when you're dealing with optics and focal lengths and all that stuff, is if there's dust or scratches or all kinds of stuff on the front of your lens and you're using a long length, telescope or a long length lens, you look right through it. You don't even see that. So then you have to say to yourself, okay, well, if that's the case, how bad would a telescope have to get before you have to clean it? Well, let's look at some images from a telescope, first of all. So let's look at this one. And there's a nice, sharp, crisp, super clean image of a chimney. You can see all the detail in the brick. You can see all the stuff on there. So that looks like a pretty acceptable image. I think I'm okay with that one. So now let's look at something like this. Well, here's a picture of a bird eating some seed. He's on the ground just having a good old time, picking the stuff that fell from the feeder. He's too small because the bigger bird said, nah, we're going to take the good stuff. You just get the scrapings. So, but if you look at that, it's a nice, clear, crisp image. Let's show you another one. Now, here's an image that was taken, quite a ways away, actually. This is quite a long image, and it was actually blown up a bit just to have a look at the detail in that particular image. But again, an acceptable image. It looks pretty clean, pretty good. We could live with that. So let's look at maybe just two more. Here's a picture of a door, and it was taken because I wanted to see the difference in the contrast. There was black door handles, a white door, all kinds of knots on there. So there's a good dynamic range in that photograph. But it, very acceptable if that's what I wanted a picture of, other than the composition. The pictures looks fine. And just one more. And here's another one of the same house. So again, beautiful, right? Doesn't that look just wonderful? So these images that you've seen were taken with a camera through a telescope. Now let me show you, if I can find it, the end of that telescope. There it is.
Yike.
Look at that. I mean, when you look at that, you're going to say, well, what am I going to do with that? That is just the worst thing you could ever use. I'm not going to look at stars with this. It's just all going to be diffracty. It's going to be just unbelievably bad. But all those images that you just saw were taken with that telescope. So the whole point of this is to talk about is when you look at your optics, don't freak out over a little bit of dust on your lens, or if you look down a matter of fact, let's look at Mike's. Mike was generous enough to give us a picture of his 10-inch Dobsonian telescope, and he took a picture of his mirror as he currently uses it. And this has been on the St. Therese Beach a gazillion times. It's been all over the place, and it still shows crisp, clear, beautiful images. But yet, if you were to look down there, look at the condition of it. There's spots all over it. There's stuff all over it. There's probably some cat hairs in there. Maybe a few kibbles and bits, I don't know. But in any event, it needs a cleaning, yes, but it does not affect his views. His views are just every bit as good from that as if it was perfectly clean. I think maybe if you did a comparison, you might see maybe just a little tiny difference, maybe in contrast, or maybe a tiny difference in sharpness, but I mean, people use scopes like this all the time. They don't even know it looks like this unless they look down in there. So so when not to clean the scope? Well, you don't have to clean the scope unless it's absolutely necessary. And the reason being is that when you look at telescopes, and I'll show you another mirror here. Here's one that looks similar to Mike's, but probably should be cleaned. And the reason being is because there's all kinds of things on that mirror that may play havoc with the actual coatings. So when do you clean a mirror, or when do you clean a lens? Well, you clean them when there's stuff on there that could affect the coatings that are on the lenses. And cameras, or not cameras, my apologies, but yes, cameras too, camera lenses. But telescope mirrors, telescope lenses are susceptible to a lot of things when we're using them for what they are intended to do, which is be outside in the cold. It could be hot when you first start, and then it gets really cold in the middle of the night. The temperature drops, the dew point raises, and all of a sudden is covered in dew. Well, that stuff comes off quite easily, and it's quite harmless, really, on the coatings, because when you take it back inside, there's a certain way that you would store your telescope, and of course that'll dissipate and it'll go away. Kind of like when you go outside for the first few minutes from a really hot house into a cold air, or a cold air into a hot house, and then your glasses steam up. It's the same thing, but after a couple of minutes, your glasses just clear away. So that kind of stuff you really don't have to worry about cleaning. What you want to be concerned about is bird droppings, insects that maybe left some stuff behind, fingerprints, anything that can be corrosive to the coatings on your instrument is really what should be cleaned. There are a variety of techniques to clean both lenses, which is totally different than a mirror. And what I mean by lens and a mirror, like Mike's Dobsonian telescope is what we call a reflector. So it uses two mirrors, and the light goes down, bounces off one mirror, and it goes up to the eyepiece off another mirror. So those are mirrors. Those coatings are actually an aluminum metal coating that's put on there, and they're designed to reflect light. Now, if you look at a telescope, like a refractor, like the one we saw in that first picture of the space guy, this one, and that would be ones that a lot of people say, okay, that's what Galileo used, that long tube with a lens on the end. Well, that uses coatings as well, but the coatings on this are designed to let light get through it and keep the reflectivity down. And so thus giving you good contrast to that, and keeping bright objects from giving you artifacts and whatnot off the light. So those coatings are different. And again, they're designed, or they're actually applied differently than they are with a mirror. And when you clean these optics, both of those require two totally different things. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to give you links, and I'm going to show you a page that you can go through and see what type of telescope you have. You could have a Dobsonian, like the one that Chris has, those two little ones he's got on his desk, or the big one that Mike has, which is, again, they're both reflectors. And again, there's a technique to clean those. And then you could have refractors, which again is another type of a cleaning process. So those are very different cleaning processes, but both importantly have to be taken care of, so that they don't get too far ahead on you. So some other things I wanted to talk about. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. And there we go. And I'm just going to pin myself. There we go. So I wanted to give you some tips on storage, because storage is one of those things that can play havoc on your telescope. So what you want to do is you want to store your telescope in a dry area that's as dust-free as possible. And you want to, if you can, keep it in a place where that, if it's a larger telescope, that your the temperature outside is relatively close to where it's being stored. So maybe in the garage, or maybe in the shed, or something like that. The reason being is when you want to go ahead and use your telescope on a night, you're not going to have to wait, an hour, a little longer for it to cool down. Whereas if it's close to ambient outside temperature, it's actually moving with the outside air, so it'll work quickly for you. But where you store it is important. So once you're done with your scope, and when you put it back in that room, let it slowly go up back to where it reaches temperature. Same as when you do with your glasses. You might wipe them off, but if you just leave them alone, they'll actually go right back clear and whatnot. The reason you don't want to put your optics away with dampness is because you can get mold. You get mold in your optics, and then you've got some other stuff that you have to deal with. Hopefully it's on the outside if you're dealing with a refractor, but if stuff like that gets on the inside somehow, then you're into having to take it all apart. But for the most part, when you do have to actually clean most things, especially refractors, it's usually just that outside objective, which would be this, where that guy is there. That would just be the outside one, but there are surfaces on the inside of that too. Dust will collect on your telescope, and moderate amounts should not affect your view, which we showed you in these examples that I showed you a little bit earlier. I do have some different stuff on lens coatings and stuff. I'm not going to get into that because that's probably too technical for what we wanted to show you here. But I'm going to share my screen again, and I want to show you one other thing. And there. First one I want to show you is this. So if you're looking at your telescope and you've had it outside, it's been hot, it's been cold, it's been damp where it is, you've got really, really damp and wet one night, and you just threw it in the case, closed the case up, and never took it out again. Well, sometimes you can get some fungus and whatnot in there. So if you see this kind of a thing on your lens, that needs to be cleaned. This is one of those situations where you want to clean that, because that's going to affect over time the coatings. And if you have to get that recoated, it's not a cheap thing. It's not like doing a mirror on a reflector, which is something if you have to get it coated or recoated, it's quite a bit less than what you would have to go through to try to recoat one of these. So here's an example of a scope that finally needed to be cleaned. And so this guy, actually this one was in pretty rough shape. I think he bought it and redid it. But you can see, that would have definitely had to be cleaned. And here's the clean version of it right there. So that's kind of what, when you first buy a telescope, that's kind of what it looks like, really. It kind of looks like that, nice and clean and crisp and clear and just beautiful. So you can see quite a change in what he's done there with that. Now, is there anything else I want to show you on this? Okay, what I want to show you next, and I'm just going to turn these off and get through all that. Just bear with me just one moment. And I want to show you these sites that I was telling you about. So there's a magazine called Astronomy Magazine, and this is the March 2017 issue, which you can look up online. And it's a whole article on how to care for your telescope. And it goes everything from, how to store your telescope, closets and unheated garages and wooden tool sheds share many of the advantages. How to clean, and this would be a mirror. This would be a reflective coating that you would have to clean. So it goes through the whole gamut, the type of things you want to use, the tools, everything you need. So that's one I want to show you. And the other one, see if it comes up here. There we are. How to clean your reflector. So a lot of people are going to have the Dobsonian type telescopes, which is what Chris uses when he's doing his outreach. And that's the ones that have the mirror in the back, the mirror in the thing. So this goes right through, and it talks about all the do's, all the don'ts, how to remove the mirror, be gentle when you're doing it, shows you how to take it out, how to take everything apart, how to prepare for the type of solutions that you need to clean it, and the techniques, and everything from drying it and putting it back into the scope. And this is from a magazine called Sky at Night. And this is a UK magazine. And to be totally frank, I'm a subscriber to the Sky at Night magazine because the quality of their articles, the quality of the photography that's in there, the in-depthness that they get into, but yet keeping it simple for layman people like me, it's probably the best subscription you can get. Now, if you don't want to get a subscription, You can buy it at Indigo, or you can get it online, that kind of stuff. But that particular magazine, this one here, I'm not sure what magazine this was. Oh, here we are. September the 10th, 2015. That's when this article was done. So you can just look it up online, just like I did. And there's, if you have, if you're watching this, you can just pause it, and there's the link right there, and that'll take you right directly to this article. So that's that one. And I got one more thing to show you. See, I told you it wasn't a new planet. So that's when you clean the scope. When you're starting to see things that aren't there, you want to clean that telescope. So
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Lots of great information there. And yeah, I mean, those lenses were pretty rough shape, but we still get some really nice views out of it. It's amazing. I would never have thought that if I looked at a lens like that and had a telescope, I'd think, oh no, when I first got into it. But now that I've seen how dirty my mirror had gotten down at St. Therese Beach with everything on it, yeah, it's really important to get the crap off of there that's going to do some damage for sure. But other than that, it's not an issue. Dust, yeah. Don't ever take a flashlight and take a look at your mirror, because it'll really disappoint you. That's when you get slap your hands, put the flashlight down.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there's articles in there too that you can find on coating. So if you ever want to find out, how soft or how hard is a coating, and to what point, if I did damage to the coating, is it going to affect my views, all that kind of stuff. There's stuff in there on that too. I started just to do this little brief talk about this thing, and I got into these wormholes all over the place of all the different stuff you learn. But it's good to know it, because then it takes a lot of the apprehension of trying to clean it yourself. When you look at some of these things or watch some of these videos, cleaning is not a hard thing to do, just some common sense, and you can clean stuff no problem.
Well, maybe we'll try that on the show sometime. We'll try to look at cleaning one of the mirrors, cleaning a small reflector or a small refractor. I got a couple downstairs that I can give you for.
There you go.
But you can't just do a little piece. You got to do them all.
The whole thing. Put it all back together.
All in the name of science, right?
That's right.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to go to Mike's Binocular Target of the Week. Hey, Mike, you're up.
Hey, I'm up.
What do you got this week?
We have, I think this should come up the right size.
Here he is, Bino Bud.
So Bino Bud.
Oh, Bino Bud.
Proudly brings to you Binocular Target of the Week, M81 and M82, which I see more like Smidge and Smudge.
Cleaner scope.
M81 and M82 fit easily into a 5-degree field of view of binoculars and offers a nice contrast. M81, also known as the Bode's Nebula, is the easier of the pair to see in a small pair of binoculars, but both are easy objects in 10 by 50s. With M81 clearly showing a very bright nucleus and M82 appearing bright but molted along its long axis, giving it the rise to the common name, the Cigar Galaxy. Maybe they light one end. And I put Pleiades at the top. Did you catch that?
They did.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to see if anybody was watching. So, where do I find M81 and M82? Well, they're up in Ursa Major. And if you look at the bucket end or the cup end, the scoop, and you have the bottom star that makes the bottom of the bowl on one side up to Denby, or Doobie, is it Dubé? Dubé.
Yep.
That makes the star at the top, and you followed a straight line, it would take you up to M81 and M82, just like this. And if you went outside just after dark, now it's about what? It's starting to get dark around 10 o'clock?
Yep.
Is it getting that late? Then you look up. I know at midnight when I looked up, I walked outside, stood north, looked virtually straight up, and this is what I saw. The Big Dipper just standing straight up on its handle. And you take these two stars and draw a straight line and go the same distance, and that'll take you to M81 and M82 on a quick star hop. Very easy to find. This is what you're going to look like, or this is what you're going to see. You're going to see M81 here, M82, the Cigar Galaxy. And then, like I said, it looks like Smidge and Smudge. In a pair of binoculars, 10 by 50s, it would roughly look like this. It's pretty close. So you're looking at a good size object. It's not something that you're squinting your eyes going, where are they? They'll show up in the binoculars. Compared to the full moon would cover the distance between the two, actually. So they're pretty good size object when you're looking at them, and they're very, very easy to see and very easy to find. They'll stand out from the back sky, and unless you do this. Everything looks so small.
Really far away then. Yep.
And that's our binocular target of the week from Bino Bud.
Awesome.
All right. We love Bino Bud.
We love Bino Bud. Yep. Yeah, and those are 12 million light years away too. So
Yeah.
Wow.
unreal, right? So you're looking at
Take
them.
a walk for Voyager to get there.
Yeah, not in our lifetimes for sure. Thanks, Mike. Great talk. So yeah, M81, M82, another great target. We're going to go from here to Rosanna's fun facts, I think, Paul, because we have Rosanna's fun facts, then we have some photos to show. So we're not going to lose everybody at 9 o'clock here, but hang on because we got photos hanging on for the end too. So make sure you.
Okay. And there was
Stay
one
with us.
question about storing the telescope.
Yes.
And
Okay.
it's talking about storage. Does it matter if you store it like a Dobsonian, standing up or lying down? If you bring it inside and you want it to dry, try to have it facing downwards towards the ground as much as you can, so that any excess water or anything like that will actually kind of run away from the mirror. And that's the same as when you're storing it. If you can store it that way, then you're not likely to have dust and stuff fall from because dust never sleeps. It gets everywhere and it gets in, and it'd be falling right on your mirror. So if you could store it on an angle, then the dust, if it does get in there, will actually start to gather on the tube before it actually slides down on the mirror. So.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. All right. Now let's see if I can do this. It's been a bit.
Not the intro music, but the other one.
No. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to get it prepared so I can do this right. Okay. So
Now it's time for.
now it's time for turning up the music.
Oh. Let's try again. It's
I did
time
that the
for.
last time. I did that the last time. I forgot to turn it back up.
Time for.
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey!
Hey. There we go. I'm sharing the screen now. Is that up on the screen?
That is.
Yes.
Hi, Rosanna. Welcome back. Good to see you again. And Rosanna has actually got us a really, really cool one to do this week. And you just give me 1 cent on here, and I just got to find out where it went. There it is. Okay. So before we get started, I'm going to turn up my speakers because I don't have that ability to do what you do. So I'm just going to have to turn it up so you can pick it up off my speakers. Here's the first sound. So what that was the Cat's Eye Nebula. But we were listening to it and not looking at it. It's absolutely amazing. So now I'll lead into the story. So Rosanna writes, hi, Paul. A tweet crossed my screen about a week ago and about a week and a half ago involving a different approach to music of the spheres. This process is called sonification, which is not dressing up a little Sonic like hedgehog for Halloween. Yeah, let me just, there. Sonification, simply put, is the practice of mapping aspects of data to produce sound signals. Now, NASA has been sonifying the visual data received from Spitzer, which is infrared, Hubble, which is visual, and Galax, which is ultraviolet, and Chandra, which is X-ray. So by taking data from each type of light and assigning a pitch, a sound, and for brightness and position or distance of volume, the music of the spheres can now be heard. So in the first example, this is the Whirlpool Galaxy. Now the sonification begins at the top of the image and moves radially around the image in a clockwise direction. The radius is mapped to notes of a melodic minor scale. Each wavelength of light in the image is mapped to a limited range of pitches, from low to high pitch, which corresponds to low to high light frequency, infrared, optical, ultraviolet, and then X-ray. So the sequence begins with sounds from all 4 types of light, but then moves separately through the data from Spitzer, which is infrared, Hubble visual, Galax, which is ultraviolet, and Chandra, which is X-ray, at wavelengths in which the spiral arms are prominent. The pitches creep upward as the spiral reaches the further from the core, and a constant low hum associates with the bright core that can be heard, punctuated by short sounds from compact sources of light within the galaxy. Now here it is here. Is that, whoops, where we go? Lost my picture. Sorry, guys, just bear with me. There we go. So is that not cool or what? So 2 more of the latest that are just fantastic. So the Chandra Deep Field Sonification MP4 and the Cat's Eye Nebula below. So this is the Chandra Deep Field Sonification. So I'm going to let you listen to this. Maybe. Oh, for some reason they don't want to play. Oh darn. Okay. All right, we'll move on. So this here, just before Christmas 2020, the light data of the NGC 1851, and I don't know if this is of 1851, Caldwell 73 was sonified, and as the radar scans around this sonification, the radius of the stars is mapped to pitch. So stars further from the center are higher pitched. The entire image is converted to the sound of a choir, while the orange and red stars are represented by a marimba, and the blue stars are represented by a glockenspiel, truly magical and Christmassy. Isn't that amazing?
That's crazy.
Oh man. Okay, let me just get my picture back up again because I'm off to the races here. Where'd it go? It's not that one. Oh, I lost my pictures. Oh, come on, Google, get away from me. Okay, sorry about that, folks. We were here. There we go. All right, so so as the focus sweeps around the image, the data is converted into sounds of a crystal singing bowl, with brighter light being heard as higher and louder notes. And the visible light data are converted to higher range of notes than the X-ray data. So both wavelengths of light can be heard simultaneously. And this is the last one. Hopefully it'll work. That is absolutely amazing to me.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness. So that's basically what you were looking at there. So that was circling around that, which was what you were hearing. So so basically what Rosanna's saying is, let me just get back out of this here. So the possibilities are endless. And although I couldn't find an object sonified to drums yet, but I'm sure it will happen. And this isn't just for sound geeks or musicians. By transferring the late data from objects in the universe, sonifications allow the audience, including blind and visually impaired communities, to listen to the astronomical images and explore their data. And that was this week's
Rosanna's Fun Fact.
Hey, awesome.
Thank you very much, Rosanna. That was so friggin'
That was
cool.
very interesting.
Oh,
neat.
man.
Neat stuff.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rosanna. Yeah, that's she always has interesting topics.
Oh, she does.
Amazing. Okay, we got some photos to share because we're at 9:01, and we asked not to go too much longer, so I'm going to try that. That is desiring for blind people. I have a son that's visually impaired, so I may run him by this little procedure. It's really interesting. Okay, let's take a look at some photos that we had submitted. If I can share my screen here. I want to thank everybody for submitting their photos. Always a pleasure to get them. Let's bring up, first of all, oh, come up on the wrong screen. Let's bring it up over the screen. Be the next one, Will. Okay. Oh, that came out really big. I wasn't supposed to do that. Well, this is David Samard's moon, anyway. Much bigger than I expected it to be. David says Saturday's moon taken with a 60mm ioptron with a DSLR. So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let me, maybe I can downsize that, can I, somehow? Well, let's just close it, and I'll go to the next one.
Hold control and scroll your wheel.
Here, we'll try another one. Open with photos. Oh, now it'll open up on the other screen. Okay, there. He took this one as well, April 24th. He said picture taken with an 8-inch SCT and a DSLR, and that's the end of for tonight, he said, because the clouds came in.
Yeah.
So those two.
Nice, though.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks, David. I think we're scrolling along here now better. Okay. Bridget Green sent this one in. She said, hey there, thought I would send along a shot of the first quarter moon from April 20th. This is her moon contest entry, actually. So lots of nice detail there.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah.
Great job. Great job. And she sent along these two. Hi, Chris. Thought I would share this photo I took with my camera last week just before dusk. I always love the moon like that when you've got some nice blue sky.
Yeah, I love the day shots.
Yeah. Wanted to get a picture of the moon before the forecasted clouds got in the way of viewing the waxing moon this month. And she said also I included one I took a few months ago of the moon over Black Settlement Burial Ground in Willow Grove. Awesome.
Very nice, yeah.
She says she's hooked on our show. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's great.
Oh, I forgot to give a shout out to my brother Danny tonight. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Danny tunes in every single week and has since the beginning. So I want to wish him a good evening. And let's move along here. Got these from Stefan Picard. He sent in, he said, hi, Chris. I was out yesterday morning and caught Saturn. As you know, it's low on the horizon in the morning, so there's much atmosphere causing viewing to be very blurry. I captured it anyway and was so surprised to see how running it through PIP, AutoStacker 3, and Registax 6 pulled out details. And that's not the picture. Hang on, I gotta move ahead here a little bit. No, I'm gonna go ahead and do that one there. No, that one, this one, that one, there.
Yeah.
And Registax 6 pulled out the details in these before and after pictures. So
Right on.
awesome, yeah.
You really see the rings really, really well, eh?
Nice.
It makes a big difference, yeah.
Now I'm going to stick again ahead to this next one from Stephen Pond. This is from the moon contest entries that were on the page there.
Okay.
Calls it the lighted cross in the steeple of the Anglican Church in Doketown last week. I was lined up with the moon as I came out of Tim Hortons. So
Perfect.
that's
All
why
right.
it's always a good reason to be out of Tim Hortons. See, you never know what's going to happen. Great shot there, Stephen. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to go back to David Smart's view of the sun here with some sunspots on Sunday. That was today. Yeah. Well, nice to see activity again on the sun. We're just coming back out of the solar minimum now. So we're going to see more sunspots more and more. When we know that we're coming out of the solar cycle, they're kind of on the top third of the sun and the bottom third of the sun. That's where they start. Then as they work their way towards the middle, we know that we're getting into about this middle of the solar cycle. Of course, the cycle is about 11 years long. We're just coming up out of the bottom of the cycle right now. So there was not a lot of sunspots last year at all. The sun was spotless most of the year, but now we're getting to see some of this. So this is great, good news.
Yeah.
And he captured them. Awesome. I'm going to move ahead here because he saw that one, I saw that one, and then we're going to this one. This one from Maureen Boone, taken in Grand Bay, Westfield.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well done.
Nice day moon.
Nicely framed. Yeah. These are more moon contest ones. Denise Coche sent this one in from Baldoon.
Nice.
Good shot, Denise.
Great shot. These are both moon contest ones as well. David Smart sent this one. He said he called these his helpers today when he was looking at the sun. So there's this
Awesome.
one helper and there's the second helper.
Excellent.
Future astronomers right there. Maybe
What a
future,
great
maybe future astronauts. Who knows?
By the look of that weather, you walk right over to the barbecue when you're done.
Absolutely. Nothing better. Kathy Adams sent this one in. She said, nice to have some beautiful clear nights in a row. The moon was absolutely gorgeous both nights. Hopefully we'll get more again soon.
Beautiful detail.
And finally, she sent in this one. My friend thought that with my love of the moon, I needed these in my garden. A couple of moons, she says.
Yeah, I love
Perfect.
Hilarious.
There.
That's a moon globe.
No.
Excellent.
Guys, awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for sending those photos in. Remember, you can send them in to Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com. That's where we like to get them, or send them into the Facebook page. However you think you can get them to me, we love to show off your beautiful work. So I guess that's another night, 9:07. Wow, man, time goes by fast.
It goes by quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. So let's close out, I guess. So in closing again tonight, thanks again for your continued support. We really do appreciate it. Thanks again to Rosanna as well for her continued contribution to our show. Really do appreciate all of your efforts, Rosanna, in helping us put on this show. And remember, we do love getting your photos, so send them into Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com, and we'd be happy to show them on our broadcast. Also looking for suggestions for topics for future shows. Next week's show, we're going to be talking another space mission, probably part 2 of the Voyager space mission. Mike's going to have his Vinyl Target of the Week. Paul's going to have another Rosanna's Fun Fact. We'll talk a little bit about what the next topic is going to be for our main content. But if you have suggestions for our main content, just let us know. Send it into Sunday Night Astronomy Show at gmail.com, and we'd be happy to try to include it in one of our future episodes. Also, we ask that if you enjoyed the content here tonight and you joined us from YouTube, please consider giving us a like and subscribing to our channel. We do appreciate it. And please let your family and friends know, too, that we are here every Sunday night to entertain and, I guess, mostly entertain. Not really educate anybody, but it's mostly entertaining. Entertain and educate you a little bit on the night sky. So for now, then, from Mike, Paul, and I, stay safe, everybody out there. We wish you all clear skies, and we hope to see you back here again next week. And as we like to say, guys, keep your scopes pointed up.
Yep.
Have a great week, everyone.